don't agree with the claim. I don't know what you can infer from the fact that there's a correlation between some index of white identity thing and Trump voting. I'm not sure that you can infer anything as robust as what you want to say on the basis of that. We could come back to that. Black Lives Matter is not some generic expression of black aspiration in America to which a racist, if he opposes it, would object. It's a radical movement. Have you read their manifesto? Do you know what they stand for and what they call for? Let me just say this. These people are not in the mainstream of American politics. If you go and look at their list of demands, it's a laundry list of the far left's ideological positions on a lot of issues that don't have anything to do with police.
By the way, I don't think there's any particular they there. I think one of the
fine.
challenges
So then we can
matter
quibble about whether or not the subject behind the point that I'm making, which is how the rhetoric and the identity of Black Lives Matter affects voters who happen not to be Democrats sometimes. We can quibble about whether or not there's a real thing called Black Lives Matter. I don't care. The point I'm trying to make is that the narrative is radical. And opposition to it is not an expression of racism. Let me just be more clear about that. They don't speak for me, Harold, and they don't speak for black people. They don't represent the aspirations of black people. They are a particular historic phenomenon. It's rooted in the African-American experience, but it is not characteristic of it. They don't like the churches, for example. Not a single one of them. They don't speak for me and they don't speak for my people, and therefore, opposition to their vitriol, to their raining down projectiles on police officers, to their equivocation on basic expressions of fealty to the country and our collective enterprise here. When people react against that, no, they don't have a get out of jail free card because they're black.
But
they have to live with they have to live with the political consequences of what they do. I do not accept that the fact that Western Pennsylvanians, Southern Ohioans, out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin's, and a majority of the voters in the state of Michigan affirm Trump tells me that there's some intrinsic white supremacist strain of contempt and hatred in this country. It does not, okay? And unless Democrats reckon with the fact that not everybody has to like affirmative action, that not everybody has to line up and genuflect, as I just did on the gender issue. When a black person stands up in Congress and goes through some kind of act, they can react to it the way mature voters react, which is, I have contempt for Colin Kaepernick taking a knee while my national anthem is playing. They can have contempt for that without being racist, I'm saying. I'm going to say something that we don't have time for me to justify, and maybe we have another conversation, but I think what's happening here is that it's an exhaustion of the progressive hope. You say you're hopeful about dealing with the problem of African-American marginality in the society, subordination, disadvantage, and whatnot. That the white supremacist positions and impediments have basically collapsed, and yet. 2/3 to 3/4 of black kids are born to women who aren't married. And the sociologists say it doesn't matter, the ones in places like the University of Chicago, but it does matter, okay? And common sense people know it matters. You can talk sociology until the cows come home about crime and incarceration and whatnot, but basically people are not buying it. They're not buying the new Jim Crow. They're not buying it. They're saying you're reaping what you've sown. Failure across the board. In education, failure, okay? A failure to seize opportunity. And the narrative, therefore, has had to shift, and it's shifted onto this ground. It is shaky ground. It's a bluff. That's my argument. My argument is that at the end of the day, you're holding a pair of deuces, okay? Well, and it's going to collapse. And what we're going to have is not effective responses to these problems. I'm going to say this here, it's going to piss you off. Trump said he wanted to fix the inner city. Now, F-U-C-K Trump. This is not about Trump. I want to fix the inner cities, okay? I want to see asserted federal action to do it. If the guy who won an election, saying every time he gave a speech that he was going to do something, is in the office, I want to find a way to get it done, okay? Now, he can be an ASSHOLE. Let's say that's what he is. That does not exhaust the discussion. The resistance is a dead end. You either elect somebody else or you work with this guy to get something done,
Oh no,
especially if you live in the inner cities.